This podcast is being powered by Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First of all, it's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Hey y'all, before we begin this episode, I do want to put a trigger warning. Although we do talk about flying safety and such, there is a little part in this podcast about a water park incident. If you have any fear of roller coasters, attractions, water parks, and such, please do not listen on. But besides that, I hope you enjoy this podcast. Hey y'all, welcome back to my podcast, Mentally a Badass. I have my friend here, Matt. We're going to chit-chat today about fear of flying. So he's actually a flight attendant, so I think he's the perfect person to talk to today. And he came over to do this, so thanks for traveling so far to come and hang out with me today.
35 minutes. Yeah.
I think it was 45 minutes.
About 40.
Were you speeding?
Yes.
Okay. So listen to this. After, having some pizza and good and wine and such, we sit down and he says, "What are we talking about again?" And I was like, "Oh boy, here we go." Okay. Alrighty. So he's a flight attendant. He works for okay, whatever. He works for Spirit. I don't really edit this stuff like YouTube, so pretty much everyone at this point, you guys know that my podcast can be a little all over the place, and that's just who I am. Pretty much let's talk about I know where to start. Let's talk about your training. Let's let the people know like the inside scoop of what a flight attendant needs to know, because it's great for people to know kind of some details in the inside. I understand if there's some things you can't say on the outside, right. Completely understand that part, but whenever you can, that's appropriate then, if you want to share it.
Yeah, so it's 4 weeks of training for us. We get trained on all kinds of things. We get trained from how to do service, how they want us to do their service according to the airline. We get trained for firefighting. We get trained for hazmat response for dealing with hazardous materials. We get trained for emergency equipment, for how to use and properly know how each piece of equipment works, as well as how to use them on board the aircraft, and how to provide services if a guest does require medical assistance. Mm-hmm. We get trained for emergency evacuations on the land and the water, basically any type of evacuation you can imagine. Mm-hmm. We get trained for how to do CPR, how to do compressions, how to save people's lives, as well as all kinds of other things, such as regulations we have to follow for the aviation industry, and policies and procedures relevant to our airline, and policies that they want us to follow, things that they want us to do.
Sounds like a lot. I should have a book where I'm just writing it all down.
We have a whole manual that we have that has it all in there, but we get trained for dealing with all kinds of different situations that that aren't expected on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. But the way this job is, we're trained mostly for being able to save someone's life in case something were to happen. And then we're trained a little bit on the outside parts, but it's mostly all safety related.
Yeah, no, definitely. So it's 4 weeks of that. Have you ever feared, have you ever had a flying anxiety at all in your lifetime?
When I was younger, I had flying anxiety. I used to be a lot more anxious with flying. Depending on the time of the year and the location we're going, weather can be really bad in some areas that you do fly to. Mm-hmm. And so some locations, if you're going around thunderstorms or snowstorms, or just real patterns of weather, sometimes the flights can be extremely bumpy for most of the flight, or even a small portion of the flight. And it's well, not usually. It is experienced more in the back of the aircraft than it is in the front, because that's where you feel. That's where most of the wind really goes.
Oh, okay, so it's more as the back gets you feel more of the bumpiness. Okay.
When I was younger, I would get anxiety because I was nervous, but dealing with the weather or wherever we were flying, too. But I would say now it depends on the location we're flying to. To certain times of the year and certain locations that we do fly to, it is going to be a little rougher than others sometimes on the flight, and you might experience those bumps and areas where it's not comfortable. You have to stay in your seatbelt, and you're experiencing a little more up and down motion on the plane.
Mm-hmm.
For flying, I mean, I'd say the biggest thing to help you with that, bring something that you like music or headphone or movie or book, something that will take your mind off it if you are anxious, or even your friends, because if you have people there to help you or things there to help you, you won't think about it as much as you might otherwise if you're just sitting there by yourself with nothing to distract yourself. Most people don't fly very often.
Yeah.
So
I actually wrote a whole article about fear of flying, and I put in some of your tips in there. So I have an article out there about it. Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like your advice did help me, especially just like saying how flight attendants are also trained to know like how to help people who have like that flying anxiety.
Yeah, we're trained for dealing with people that are, it's part training and it's part, experience on the job. Just doing the job for a period of time, learning how to deal with people that are uncomfortable flying, nervous flyers, first-time flyers, difficult flyers,
difficult flyers,
the ones that have more issues during the flight.
I thought you were talking about something else.
No, we kind of learn how to deal with all those kind of situations.
Okay. Do they give you like scenarios in training or something like that?
We go over situations and stuff, but a lot of it's more related to the manual and trying to get through things and learning about regulations and policies and different things that we have to follow. And then most largely safety related things, dealing with medical situations and stuff. We get trained a large portion on medical situations. How to deal with people with strokes, how to deal with people with seizures, how to deal with people.
Wow, so you're like part doctor too, in a way.
Yeah, we're part, but we can only go as far as our training is allowed. Yeah. So if we're in flight and there's a medical situation, we always have to get a call for a medical professional to help assist us with the situation. Because certain things we're not allowed to do unless you have approval by certain entities while working. But we know a lot of us know how to deal with people that might be anxious first-time flyers and how to try to calm them down. Sometimes if it's not a full flight, we can move them further up to try to get them with a friend or a loved one that will help them with the situation. Or sometimes we'll check on them. Or sometimes, if they have distractions, we might check on them. If they're doing okay, we're not going to be too concerned.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it's just talking to them, too. Sometimes all the people really want to know is that you're listening to them and they feel like you're caring about what they have to say.
For me, I don't even talk to the flight attendants because I feel like anxious just even talk to them. Not going to lie. This actually was my recent flight. It's actually gonna sound so stupid. It was like I had to use the bathroom, and then by the time I came back, it was people were boarding, so there was a million people in the aisle and stuff like that. And then I don't know. I think I was just being what I was doing was kind of inconveniencing other people because I couldn't get in and get out or whatever. And then the flight attendant, he had to keep moving out of the way for me because it was just really, really stupid. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. I'm so problematic. He's like, yeah, I got to write you up for this. And I was laughing. So he smiled at me. But he made a joke. It was because you know me, I'm not a problematic person. I mean, at least on flights. Wait, what?
He's like, I have to write you up for this.
No, he smiled when he said that. Because I was just I don't know what it was. I think I think I just like had to go back into my row, and then like people had to keep moving back because of me because I had like I don't know. It was something really stupid.
Try to get back to your seat.
Yeah, I was just trying to get back to my seat, and I think like I just had a I don't know. I can't remember in detail, but it was something so small. And I'm the kind of person where it's like I feel like if I'm annoying anybody, I'm like I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm like I'm sorry. I'm that problematic person apparently. And he's like, yeah, I gotta write you up for this. I'm like, oh. Well, I think he was kidding, obviously.
Yeah, boarding's very chaotic time.
It is. So I went to use the bathroom because I'm stupid, and I don't know. I don't know. So I just went to use the bathroom. By the time I got back, it was just chaotic, and I was just apparently I think he had to like try to like be like, can you guys step back for her like that? And I was like, and then I think that's what he did. I think he was helping me out, and then I said to him like, I'm so sorry, I'm so problematic. He's like, yeah, I gotta write you up for this. I'm like, the guy was so funny. Imagine that we just came written up and I can never fly that plane. I think he looked at me. He was like, "Really? You think this is such a big deal to us?" Because I'm like that. Like I would just I don't know. I never want to inconvenience workers just because like I'm so used to being treated really badly by a bunch of Karens in this world. So I never want to be a Karen. Even though if it's something so small like that, I would literally I'm one of those people that like if someone bumps into me, I'll be like, sorry. You know. I'm like that. I don't know. I'm really when I'm out in public, I have so much social anxiety that I just feel like I'm gonna bump into somebody who's gonna yell at me or something like that. I don't know. I'm just going off topic, but this whole podcast always goes off topic.
I know exactly how you feel because during the flights, I mean, we're working in such confined spaces. I feel like
bad for you with your whole experience with.
I feel like I
okay, what can we talk about on this podcast? You know, everything you just told me off of the, like when we're just chatting, eating pizza, and drinking wine. I can discuss a lot. Okay, I was like, I don't know what you can and can't discuss. So
yeah, I can discuss a lot. I can't get into everything in the fam. That's
so you tell me you can't tell me their first, last name, and social security number?
But, you know, a lot of times with our flights, I mean, we're working in such confined spaces that,
yeah.
I always feel bad because the amount of times where I've had my butt bump into people, or my back bump into people, or this bump into people, or my knee bump into people because I can only bend and move so far.
Going back to the original topic, have you ever like saw somebody like have a panic attack or something like that you had to like calm them down?
I've had some people have some really bad anxiety. I had one last year on a flight we were working to Dallas where the lady was really anxious. It was her first time flying. She was in like 6 rows in the back of the plane. And she was really anxious because she was worried about the turbulence. And then she was just nervous for flying in general. And so we came over. We ended up having to get rerouted to Houston because of the airspace being closed because of weather. And we had to help her because she had really bad anxiety related to her flight. And so what we did in the situation was we checked on her throughout the flight. And then when it started getting really bumpy, we tried to help calm her down because she was getting really, really nervous. And told her if she needed to, she could watch us and that she was going to be okay because we're not going to let anything happen to her.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're trained for, was dealing with different situations. And, you know, the captain knows that it's going to be bumpy. And the captain made an announcement saying it was going to be bumpy. So if we get nervous, you know, that's when she can get nervous. But with our job, the way our job is, I'm not supposed to always show emotion on things. You know, I'm supposed to.
Well, it makes sense because if you do and you show any type of like being nervous, then everyone else is gonna freak out.
Right.
And that's one thing I did put in my article is like if you get nervous and you feel like something's out of the norm, like just look at the flight attendant.
Right, because we're trained. We're supposed to be pretty calm dealing with situations because they're looking at us for dealing with all kinds of different scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they envision the worst case scenario.
Oh, yeah, like Final Destination. That movie really messed me up. Like, I always fear, like, because in that movie, when the plane went up, it, like, went into flames.
Right.
Do you think that can ever happen?
No.
Really?
Well, I mean, if we're on the ground, there's certain, crashing, things that are not supposed to happen. But
How do you like? Why do you think when the flight was taking off that it just went into flames? Like, what do you think could have happened in that situation? I'm very curious.
It's a movie, so.
Well,
But
that was great.
I mean, with that one, there's all kinds of possibilities. They have all kinds of pyrotechnics and other things like that they use for entertainment purposes that could have helped stage that kind of.
I wonder if we can find that movie to watch tonight.
We probably could.
Final Destination. That's a great movie to watch with you.
But there's all kinds of. But in a normal situation, I mean, we're trained to deal with all kinds of situations that could possibly occur on a day-to-day basis. And this job, there's no 2 days that are the same. So,
do you want to hear something? This is going off topic again, but I want to tell you anyway. I'm not going to wait until I get off this podcast. So, did you know that they at one of the water parks for Disney, a person got his arm taken off?
Taken off?
Like, it was a freak accident.
But they got stuck in the slide or something?
Something like that, yeah. And it got ripped off.
Oh, no.
I found that recently. Like, I'm never going to the water park ever again. Yeah, apparently it was like, I guess the guy, because you know how they say keep all your hands inside the raft thing? I think the guy's probably put his hand down and he gets it caught. And then I think, yeah, his like whole arm got ripped off.
By the motion?
It got stuck on like a belt thing or whatever.
Oh, God.
One of those, like, yeah, like literally basically stuck on the actual ride itself.
It's sad because they go down so fast.
Yeah, so I think probably with the force and everything like that, yeah, he literally had his thing ripped up and they had to like shut down the ride for like 24 hours because they had to clean up all the blood.
Oh, God.
Can you just imagine, like, that's probably a whole pool of blood. That's horrible.
That's all kinds of hazardous stuff.
Oh my God. And I heard that. I was like, I'm never going to parks ever again. I mean, like, clearly the guy, like, obviously you shouldn't be putting your hands out like this.
He wasn't following the
But I mean, I think they just had a settlement. I think that's what happened when they obviously went to court for it. But I think they just settled. But yeah, fun fact. That was like, and then literally we're like, that's just like a Final Destination situation.
It's a very scary situation.
Oh my God. If I was like people working there, I would probably have passed out. Like, oh my gosh, that would be horrible. I would not want to have seen that. Okay, I gotta stop thinking about that image in my head. I finally got over it yesterday, and now it's back in my head. Wow. Yeah, I probably should have put a trigger warning. This is gonna get gross. What were we talking about again? Oh yeah, Final Destination and movies and how about what about that plane that went missing? What was that from? There was one that went missing. I forgot what it was called.
There was a Malaysia airline one.
Yeah, that one.
A couple of weeks ago, but.
Couple of weeks ago.
Recently, that was very recent.
Wait, there was a plane that went missing recently?
Wasn't too long ago, but there was a Malaysia or some type of international flight that was.
It's always the international flights, I feel like.
But the way our aircrafts are, we have all kinds of equipment that can be used to help locate an aircraft if something were to occur.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
And it's designed to last for a certain duration of hours and pin the location if there was a downed aircraft somewhere so that they could help us in the event of evacuation.
Mm-hmm.
As well as equipment that will help us deal if we had those kind of situations, such as a water evacuation or a land evacuation or, whatever the situation is that we're trying to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
And so part of our job when we go on the aircraft is ensuring that everything is properly secure and works in the case that we would actually have to use it during a flight. And we can't board until we have the okay, they have the okay from us saying that all of our stuff is good to go.
Mm-hmm.
Because each minute our flight's delayed costs the airline money. Each minute.
Oh, yeah, you told me that. That's insane.
Yeah, each minute our flight's delayed costs money. And sometimes it's out of our control if we are delayed. due to weather or other circumstances such as
What do you
maintenance
mean
issues.
you can't control weather?
But in certain situations, if they do happen, it can come back on on us in a negative way as well.
Yeah.
In terms of us being penalized for it or things like that.
Yeah, this is all fun stuff. I've never knew that. And you told me that a lot of flyers think that your job is so easy. Were you telling me that?
Some do. Some with this industry believe their job is a lot easier than it looks because in the air, we do service and then we do snack and beverage service. Some airlines throw it out for free, some don't. As well as a lot of what they see in our job, it doesn't look as difficult as they would expect because they don't know a lot about how this industry is. And some think it's going to be a lot more exciting because we get to go to all these cities and get paid to go to these cities.
I know, that's a really cool part.
And explore these cities on our free time and everything, either using our benefits or for free or for work. And so some don't see both sides of the story. But the way this job is, a small portion of it is our service part. And then a large part is everything else that we have to be trained for in the event of if something were to go wrong on the ground or in the air. And so a lot of our job, we just have to be prepared and know the warning signs for what could lead to a situation escalating.
Have you ever been in a position where you had to perform certain safety procedures?
I've had to help deal with people with medical situations. A lot of the situations we deal with is because either the cabin's too hot or it's too cold, and sometimes people don't eat properly or they don't drink enough before they get on the plane, or they drink too much, or they're anxious and so they're not prepared or their anxiety gets the best of them, so we have to help them with situations. But from time to time, and it's not an everyday basis. Sometimes it doesn't happen for a long time, or sometimes you might have it a couple days in a row.
Have you ever been in any emergency situations with the plane?
I haven't been in any emergency situations on the plane outside of training where I'm required to practice dealing with those situations.
Yeah. That's good. How long have you been doing this again?
I'll be starting my third year in January.
So almost 3 years,
But
yeah, that's good.
I have had to deal with people having seizures or other medical situations like that. And we're trained to get medical help in situations, as I said earlier, because we can only do so much without proper accommodations to allow us to do it. Because we're only trained to go so far on our medical help before we have to ask for help.
Yeah.
And we're trained for all kinds of situations, but at the same time, they still want us to get an official medical professional to deal with situations that might require that kind of assistance. But most of the time, if we're dealing with medical situations, it's usually for a guest that doesn't feel good because they didn't eat or they didn't drink or they came early on the flight, been at the airport for too long, they've been flying all day and they haven't had any water or
so
food.
What it sounds like to me, it's you never really experienced or had to go through a Final Destination situation.
No.
Yeah, so I did some research when I was doing my article, and it was saying flying and crashing is 1 in 100 or 1 in 10,000 or something like that. That it's pretty much really extremely rare.
The chance of it happening are extremely low.
And why do you think that? What do you know the reason of that? What makes it safer?
For one, these aircraft, each of the pilots go through a large amount of training on the aircraft, as well as they have to get significant flight hours in order to be even trained to be a commercial pilot in the first place. But then they also have to have certain certifications for each type of plane. They do fly in the industry, and so they're trained to deal with all kinds of situations that can occur as well, such as de-icing the plane. If we're in like Minnesota in December, it's going to be snowy, it's going to be icy. They're trained for identifying ice and other things like that, because with those kind of situations, if there's ice on the aircraft, it can be really, really catastrophic if it's in air, if it's not taken care of before we take off.
Do you think that was a Final Destination thing?
It could be, but that is why we do have to de-ice, is to make
it makes sense, yeah.
Because ensure our wings are okay before taking off. Because they have to be able to deal with different situations on the ground or in the air as well. And not only that, we're trained for dealing with all kinds of situations before you even take off, to ensure the doors are safe, or the other things that we have to use are safe, so that nothing could possibly happen in the air as well.
How about like these horror stories of like the windows breaking?
The chance of that happening are pretty much non-existent.
Yeah, unless we were that's like the stuff that goes through my brain, is like with my anxiety, is like, oh, if the window breaks, or we fall, or this thing just randomly blows up, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, unless we really have to evacuate or it's a serious situation, the chance of that happening are very, very, very little. Aircraft, aviation flying in general is one of the safest modes of transportation there is, and especially dealing with the COVID situation right now, the protocols that we're following in industry are very strong to help mitigate the possible risk of anything happening as well.
Yeah. I think that was a lot of really good information about that, honestly. So, I feel like this would be a good episode for somebody who does have a fear of flying and kind of wants to know, the inside scoop, because I feel like, for me personally, I feel like it's more comforting to hear from someone who works in the actual industry versus just, just listening to your friends, which, I mean, that's fine, too, but, from what I've learned from you is to, if ever get scared, just look at a flight attendant, and just knowing how you do this for a living and you are still alive. So I guess you're fine, right? And then the intense training that you go through and such. But yeah, we're getting towards 30 minutes, which is going towards the end time. Do you have any other things you want to say to the people?
No, that's it. I appreciate you listening. And
thanks so much for listening, guys. I post every single Saturday at noon Eastern Standard Time, and I have all my social media links in the description. But I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.